Hello and welcome to the introduction video for the new EOS M6 Mark II. So obviously this is a replacement for our current M6 that we have in the lineup. So this one here, and this is the Mark II version. I've got it with the little viewfinder on the top here at the moment, but I'll take that off and talk about that in a moment. So this is part of our EOS family, so it's interchangeable lens, and this is a mirrorless camera, which means that the mirror box inside is not there. If you're not sure what that is, leave a comment in the section below and I can do a separate video about mirrored and mirrorless cameras and things like that. So the M6, before I go into the details of what this camera can do, all the features, let me tell you a bit about who this camera is aimed at, or who this camera is suitable for. So the type of person who would buy this camera would be someone who is maybe quite advanced in their photography, so they're gonna understand about shutter speeds, apertures and ISOs and things like that. They're also, this potentially could be their second or third camera that they've owned, or maybe their secondary camera to the other one that they use. What's really beneficial about this camera, what really makes it stand out, is its size. For the feature set that's inside here, this is an incredibly small camera, which means that it really lends itself to travel photography. It really lends itself to spontaneous type shooting. So if you're going out for a day, you're not quite sure what you're going to take pictures of or what you're going to see, and you want to carry something around that's light, portable, but still gives you the latest generation of image quality, this is the camera for you. So let's have a look around the outside of this camera and compare it to the original M6. So it actually, from a distance, looks almost exactly the same, or the colour difference is slightly there, but from the distance it looks almost the same. But there's so many differences on this camera. First of all, the grip. Let's talk about the grip. The grip is a lot larger and a lot deeper on the Mark II. If you look at the top of the cameras, you can see that we've got the dial function button, which is basically, we've got that on the original EOS R that we launched, and you've got that function here, and you can press the button and you can change the settings and change what that does. What I really like is we've held onto the standard sort of mode dial on the top here with the main settings on here, like the scene mode. We've got flexible value on here as well. And once again, this is something that's come from our EOS R, and it's great to see it on a product like this. I won't go into detail on what flexible value is, but if you want to know what it is, have a look on the EOS R video that I shot. And then if we look at the back of the cameras, they've both got the same screen. They've both got the same flip-up screen, so 180 degrees upwards or 45 degrees downwards. And then what I wanted to show you is this button here, which is the focus button, which allows you to toggle between autofocus and manual focus. Which, when I first saw this, I thought that's a big button to use just for changing between autofocus and manual focus. But actually, the EFM lenses, these lenses, don't have the ability to switch them onto manual focus. And if you're more advanced in your photography, or if you like taking more control of your photography, what you can find yourself doing is using the autofocus. Then if you want to fine-tune the autofocus, you flick that switch there, and then you've got the ring on the front to actually change your focus point, or very slightly change your focus. And that's really, really handy to do. You can also activate your autofocus or stop the autofocus by pushing that button there as well. So basically you can do back button focus by using this, this button here. And I think it's a fantastic switch. Like I say, when I first saw it, I wasn't quite sure what this was about, but when I started using the camera, I thought, oh my goodness, this really does make a difference, and gives you that added flexibility to how you shoot. If you have a look at the rest of the buttons on the back of the two cameras, they are actually very, very similar. Actually, they are actually exactly the same. But that's great because it's a very similar layout to actually most of our other cameras, like we seem to be doing now, so making a lot of the cameras very, very similar. And I think this is great because it makes it easy to switch between cameras, and you don't have to learn a new one if you're buying the next generation. Another great thing that stayed the same is the battery. So it's the LP17, so it's the same battery that you find inside the M6, the same battery that goes inside the EOS RP, it's the same one that goes inside the 250D. Try and get these right now, remember which ones take which, but most of our cameras now either take the LP6 or the LP17, which is great because the flexibility between the products makes it really, really useful. Other things that's on here, so you've got a built-in flash there, once again, same as the M6, and on the side here, you've got mic input, A little mic input there, and I'll come on to the video features a bit later. And then you've also got the connector there for the remote release. You can also connect this up to your PC as well, and you've got a HDMI and a USB socket there. Now what's great about the USB is that you can charge this camera through USB. You can't power it, as in you can't physically use the camera when it's connected up, but you can actually charge your camera. And even though we do this, you still get the dedicated charger in the box, which a lot of our competitors don't do. When they make their cameras so you can charge them through USB, they take the charger out of the box. We don't do that. With our cameras, it's still included. And the last thing, really looking at the outside, is the hot shoe on the top there. So this is a standard type hot shoe, and you'll notice that it's got the central pin, which means that you can use third-party flashes on here. But it also means that you can attach the viewfinder, and the EVF DC2 clips onto the top there. So this is a current one that we have at the moment. You've got the diopter adjustment there, and this is a 2.2 million dot. This is, I say, this has been around already, but it clips directly onto here like it would on the Mark 1. We are actually including this in the box. If you buy the camera with the 15-45mm lens, which is the lens I've got on the front here, like I say, we're including the viewfinder in the box. So the first thing to talk about inside this camera, I think, is the sensor. So the sensor is a new generation. It's a 32.5 million pixel sensor. So this is the first time we've had this kind of resolution, or this sensor, inside one of our cameras before. And to have this on an APS-C size sensor camera, or have this type of megapixel, is very, very exciting. I've had a quick play around with the low light capability of this camera, and I'm really, really impressed at what this new generation of sensor can actually produce. So this is very, very exciting. So coupled to the new sensor is our new processor, which is our Digic 8 processor, which is our latest, most powerful processor. What this does is makes this into an incredibly fast camera, which is really, really good if you're dealing with those spontaneous moments, as I mentioned, where you don't know what's quite going to happen, but you want to capture that moment. So this camera in its standard mode will shoot up to 14 frames a second, which is incredibly quick as things stand at the moment. And Sony have literally just launched their A61 and 6600 cameras, which is the main competitors this really, and they're still not as fast as this one. So this is market leading as things stand at the moment. So yeah, 14 frames a second, that's with autofocus as well, will track a moving subject. And this is all part of this new processor and this new sensor put together. It has a fast electronic shutter speed as well, up to 16,000th of a second. It's very hard to say, that is. Which means that you can capture those really fast-paced action and really freeze that moment. We also have the 30 frames a second CR2 RAW mode on here. You may remember that from the G7X Mark III and G5X Mark II. Difference with this one is you get autofocus. So on the PowerShot series that has this 30 frames a second mode, you don't get autofocus. With this one you do. I've tried that as well, and I'm super, super impressed at how well this camera tracks a moving subject. So this new sensor and new processor linked together also now gives you eye detect AF. Once again, this is technology that's come from our EOS R series. So it's got eye detect, where it'll track a moving subject with an eye, human subject that is. We don't have animal tracking yet, which is one of our competitors do have that, but that's not something we have on our cameras yet, but to be honest, I'm not too worried. You also have focus bracketing on here as well, and with the focus system, which actually I haven't mentioned, it is dual pixel CMOS AF. And I love it when our cameras have dual pixel CMOS AF. When I talk to a journalist and they ask about the AF system, as soon as I say, oh yeah, it's got dual pixel CMOS AF, there's no more that needs to be said. People know that this is one of the best autofocus systems out there. This one will focus down to -5 EV as well, which means you can still have autofocus in incredibly low light conditions. And the dual pixel CMOS AF will cover 88% by 100% of the surface area. So it covers a lot larger area than the original Mark 1 as well. I really feel that dual pixel CMOS AF should now be called dual pixel CMOS AF 2, because there's so much more that it does since we launched it originally on the, what was it, the 70D that first had that technology. Things like eye detect AF, faster acquisition of subjects, larger areas. It really has moved on in leaps and bounds. So the new generation of dual pixel is very, very good. And let's talk briefly about the movies as well. So as I mentioned, it's got microphone input, so that'll be of real interest to people who are slightly more advanced in their movie or their video shooting. It does shoot 4K, no crop. So there's no crop on the 4K. You're getting to use the full area of the APS-C size sensor. Obviously it's 16 by 9, so you're losing the top and the bottom, but there's no crop on here, which is fantastic. This will really keep certain people quiet who really have complained to us when our cameras have this cropping on the sensor when you shoot 4K. You can shoot up to 30 frames a second, so you get 30 frames a second and 25 frames a second on 4K shooting as well. And in full HD, you get up to 120 frames per second as well. And yes, let's just say it now, you don't get 24p. This seems to be a thing that a lot of people are talking about at the moment, saying, why haven't we got 24p on our cameras? This is something we're waiting to get feedback on why the cameras don't have this. But it's not something that's so important in Europe. In USA, they really want the 24p, but in Europe it's not such a big thing because of the way that we shoot and the way that we mix footage, we don't use 24p very often. But it is something that we are looking at, and hopefully we'll have some feedback on that soon. Now, I've mentioned how well this camera will focus in low light, but I haven't spoken about the ISO capability. So the ISO now is 100 to 25,600, expandable to 51,200. This basically means that you can shoot in real low light conditions. And I think this is really impressive considering the increase in megapixel. We have to remember, we're up to 32 million pixels now, but still being able to get that low light capability, I think is fascinating. Once again, if you want to know more about the relationship between ISO and megapixel, let me know in the comment section, and maybe I can do a video on that. So let's talk about the connectivity on here. So this has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth as well. We seem to be stepping away from NFC, but I can kind of understand that with not all third-party device manufacturers supporting NFC. But Bluetooth is a really good piece of technology to have on here. So you can do the usual things with this. You can send images to your smart device. You can upload to social networking sites. You can also do automatic backup on this as well, where you can set it up so when you get home, the camera will automatically connect and automatically back up all your photos as well, so you've got them nice and safe. Because yes, this does have only one card slot on it. I mentioned that as well. It's a standard SD card slot. Thank you for watching this introduction to the EOS M6 Mark II. If you've got any questions, put them in the comment section below, and if you like this video, give us a thumbs up like.